August 9th, 2019.
This is Nerd Bourbon episode 114. I'm Seth Sturgill.
And I'm Todd Sturgill.
Hello, Todd.
Hello, Seth. How's it been? How's it been going, man?
It's going all right. How's it hanging? Long and firm, full of sperm? No. Long and hairy, hard to carry?
Yeah. That's real shit. No.
That used to be my response whenever somebody would ask me, how's it hanging? Long and hairy, hard to carry?
I respect that. I definitely respect that. Truthfully, though, I'm going to tell you how I'm feeling.
Okay.
Because at the time of this recording, I've already finished recording all of Doom, and I'm a little sad.
The world seems a little less bright without a series to record.
Yeah.
Well, there's a good remedy for that. You just got to find a new series to make.
So I'm debating on just recording just bullshit. So like I'm honest. It's to the point now where I'm like debating on like just playing it and just backlogging an entire series for like when we're like dead.
Maybe that might be something to do. I mean, you
don't
could
know
even...
what I want to. Don't know what I want to do yet, but I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. So for those listening, if you are unaware. We have currently 2 ongoing series on the YouTube channel right now, 2 ongoing Let's Play series with both Marvel Ultimate Alliance and Todd's playthrough of Doom 3 for Tater Time. And those are both going on right now. Doom happens on Monday and Wednesday, and Marvel happens on Tuesday and Saturday. And that will be going on for the foreseeable future. Both of those series will be going on until the end of the month at least, and Doom actually into early September. So,
yeah.
And we're pretty committed to making more video content for the channel. This is something that I kind of tried to stress last week on the show, but again, I'm not trying to like shill our shit. But if you haven't already and you're a fan of our content, I really do encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm not just saying that. I'm not just being like a shill. We really are putting a lot of work into it.
It's going to start popping over there a little bit, you know?
Because we are planning on doing some Gears videos. I know Todd's got a bunch of stuff like for Monster Hunter. He's going to at least do a couple of videos for that. And there's going to be more Tater Time stuff on there.
By the way, I want to make an intro for my Let's Play series.
Oh, yeah? That'd be good.
I just want to go, it's Tater Time!
So there's just a bunch of stuff. I started a new video series on there that I'm tooling with, and there's a lot of like exclusive video content that is coming to the YouTube channel that we're having a lot of fun making. So
yeah.
So seriously, subscribe to it if you're interested. If you're a fan of our stuff, throw us that sub. I think it's worth it personally. It's worth the free sub. This is actually interesting. This is a little bit of a tangent, but me just saying the word sub right now reminded me of it. So I was talking about this on my other podcast that I do with my wife, Tea and Honey. We recorded that last night.
See, now you're really shilling. No, I'm just playing.
No, I mean, if I was really shilling, I would tell you all to go check out Tea and Honey on iTunes, Google Play. But no, it's a topic-based like positivity podcast, and I brought one of my topics was regional dialects. And it's interesting because we took this quiz that can pinpoint where your regional dialect is from based on the way you say certain things. So, like, for example, the way, like, some people say firefly, some people say lightning bug, some people say roly-poly, some people say pill bug or potato bug. It's, like, it's interesting. And I was curious, what would you call, like, a sandwich, like 2 pieces of bread with, like, cold cuts and meat and stuff like that, like you would get at a Subway? What would you call that?
A sub.
So you would call that a sub. Most of America would call that a sub. Some people call it hoagies. I always grew up calling them hero sandwiches.
Here's the thing. For me, it all comes down to the bread.
Uh-huh.
See, a hoagie to me it's similar to a sub, but it's a softer bread. That's what a hoagie has always been to me. A sub to me is actually, personally, a sub to me is more of a heartier sandwich, a little more of a, hearty. It's a little harder to, bite in.
Uh-huh.
And that's what a sub is to me. But usually it's Subway, yeah, it's a straight sub.
Well, and that's another interesting facet of it is a lot of the options on the quiz were specifics like that. Like, I would call it this in this situation, or like situational stuff. You
Well,
know?
situational stuff, yeah. Like that's exactly okay. I mean, like, 'cause I already know like what I'd call those fucking little bugs, those roly polies. Been saying that shit for years.
It's interesting because it's got the stuff, the common stuff, right? Like soda or pop and stuff like that. And it's actually funny because like you and I say soda,
But
right?
it's more common for actually it's more common for people where we're technically both from to say pop.
Exactly.
And I'd never have called it pop in my life.
And it's hilarious because neither have I. But it's hilarious because if you look at the map, every place in Illinois basically was surveyed to say pop except for the area that Chicago is.
Damn.
So isn't that funny? Like it's just little shit like that is really funny. And then down south everybody just calls everything Coke. So
That's always been that's a weird thing to me.
it's weird.
It's the thing is like I've noticed that shit.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Yeah, everybody just calls everything Coke down here, and that's just a thing down south. But most of the country says either soda or, like, up north, people say pop, except for this little pocket in Illinois where Chicago resides, people say soda. And I was like, that's why I always grew up saying soda. I never said pop. And nobody in my family ever said pop.
Just fucking weird. And then there's also the people that actually say soda pop, and it's
That's
like,
a little, like, some people you hear.
That's too much power. Fuck you.
And then, like, so like I alluded to earlier, like, I always grew up calling those, I always called it a hero sandwich. And it's funny because when I took the quiz, it actually thought that I was from New York.
Really?
And the reason I think that is because, I was, grew up raised by my mom, who was a New Yorker.
Yeah.
So
I was like, as soon as you said that, I'm like kind of not surprised.
yeah, so I think a lot of my dialect I picked up from my mom's New Yorker dialect. Mm-hmm. So
I would love to take this quiz myself.
I'll link you to it. It's interesting, man. It's like a 25 question quiz, and it basically just asks you a lot of like innocuous shit like that. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. Actually, here in Discord right now, I'm going to type 3 words, and I want you to pronounce them.
I feel like I say those all the same.
Exactly. Most of America does.
Mary, and maybe I might go a little like Mary in a weird way, but I think I'm thinking to myself, I always just say Mary.
Yeah, so most people do. So like 90% of America does they would say Mary for Marry, Mary like the name, and then Merry for most people is also Mary. I say Mary, like with a little more
like
lightness on the E.
Like, yeah, I feel like that's one of the words that might come out like the way you say it, but for the most part, it's always just Mary.
And that's the interesting thing. Like 90% of people say those 3 words all the same, except for northeastern, like New York area, would say Mary, like with the E, like I would say.
It's like when I give you shit for the way you say compass.
Yeah, like I say compass.
And it always bothers the shit out of me when you say it. Because it's just like...
Another interesting one is the word, like, do you say route or route?
I usually say route, yeah.
So almost all of America surveyed says that they use both. And I'm the same way because I'll say like, oh yeah, we'll go that route. But at the same time, I'll go to Sonic and I'll order a Route 44. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and it's hilarious because almost the entire country is like that.
I feel like I don't use both though. I
Yeah,
feel like
some people don't.
I feel like I'm primarily route. See, this is the type of tangent I enjoy. This is a
huge tangent, but again, I find regional dialects fascinating. Anyway, what's another like stupid thing that people like saying what people call shoes? Yeah, like gym shoes and tennis shoes and yeah. Like, I always just said shoes. Some people say sneakers or tennis shoes or gym shoes.
For the most part, it's gym shoes for me. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, so it's interesting, but that's a big ass tangent. I find it really fascinating. I encourage you all to look into it.
I approve of tangents. God damn it.
Anyway, let's talk about video games and nerdy shit, shall we? Todd, what have you been playing this week?
A lot of Doom.
Yeah, a lot of Doom. Now, as we've said, at the time of this recording, the series comes out bi-weekly and will be for the next several weeks. But we have completed Todd's playthrough.
Yes, we have, and it was a solid game. I enjoyed my time with it.
I was gonna say, coming away from it, what are your kind of final thoughts?
it's that like I think we've said it multiple times, even in that playthrough. That game is a product of its era.
Oh yeah.
And is there anything wrong with that? No. It's just not what you want from a Doom game, especially after playing like what they've done with Doom 2016.
Right.
And like it's something I think we even said it, like it's like we should stop comparing the two.
I mean, it's hard not to, but like at the same time, it really is not a fair comparison.
It's not at all. I have my issues with the game, but a lot of my issues really just fall back into like I don't like when that game tries to do platforming.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Like the controls are just so dog shit. And then it's just throwing the enemies at you.
Oh yeah.
With these tight corridors, and also trying to. One of the big things, I think this happened in one of the later episodes, is I'm just like, give me a fucking weapon. Please give me a weapon I can use. As I'm like trying to like frantically scroll.
Yeah, what you mean by that is the way that you have the weapon selection mechanic
is absolute trash. It's before a weapon wheel, and like because they added the weapon wheel in Doom 2016, but it's just because you scroll through like the weapons with like the left trigger, basically like the top left trigger and the top right trigger.
The bumpers,
The bumpers, yeah. It's just dog shit. Absolute dog shit.
And it's just, again, it's a product of the time because a lot of games had not figured out good ways of doing that. Like a lot of its progenitors, you think of Halo, and Halo's solution to that is like, oh, we're just going to give you 2 weapons. Mm-hmm. And something like, for example, Half-Life, which is another game it took a lot of inspiration from, puts the weapons on sort of a hierarchy of selection with the D-pad, which I think would have worked better for Doom. It wouldn't have been ideal, but it would have at least been better.
Yeah, it definitely would have been better. I would have, because again, honestly, all you really needed to give me, because like, the main weapons I would like to use in that game, it's like put a rocket launcher on the D-pad, put the shotgun on the D-pad, put either the machine gun or the plasma rifle.
Right.
Like boom, would have been love.
So as a result, you're sort of left just kind of like fumbling through,
and I'm like, give me the soul cube.
And sometimes that was annoying because I mean the game probably has, what, like 8 or 9 different weapons.
It's a good amount of weapons. You got the shitty pistol that you should never use.
Pretty much, yeah.
The shotgun, the standard machine gun, the plasma rifle, the rocket launcher, the BFG. And grenades.
Grenades, of course, the soul cube.
And I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. But
overall,
I will say, for all of the game's faults and all of the things that are a product of its time, again, and I say this in one of the episodes of the series, which I encourage you watch, it's really interesting to look back on Doom 3 just as it is, as a product of its time. And it really is. They made that game in response to a lot of the current climate in early 2000s first-person shooter design.
Yeah.
And Doom 2016 was almost a response to that, where they were like, okay, like Doom 3 is a good game, but it's not a good Doom game. So let's go back to the drawing board and really make more of a sequel to the original Doom games, and that's what Doom 2016 is.
And it's so much better for it.
It is, but with all of that being said, I was surprised at how well Doom 3 held up after all this time.
There is certain visuals in that game that I really respect, like when you actually get to like the later aspects of the game with like hell, and even like that final going down into the final like the excavation site.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, I really enjoy just like the cyber demons design in the game as well.
Yeah, some of the designs are really good, but even just like the stuff like the PDAs and the lockers and the exploration elements of the game, I think, are pretty solid, even though we cheesed all that stuff.
Oh, fuck that, man. Here's the deal. If everybody watching the video complains about it, I technically grabbed I feel like I grabbed every PDA in the game.
Probably grabbed most of them.
Most of them. There's probably, 2 or 3 I missed or some shit?
Yeah.
For the most part, I explored pretty heavily. And I like that. Because I just get lost.
Well, yeah, I mean, the actual level design is a little obtuse, but I like the little elements of exploration that are peppered in there.
I'll say this: the first couple levels with the UAC are like real bad with that same shit, like the samey,
right?
Like just samey looking areas. But like towards the end of the game, I feel like it gets a little easier. Shit, that game gets mean though towards the end.
There are some parts that are definitely difficult. They do not shy away from
and it's
difficulty.
in a game in such tight corridors where like it's like, oh, okay.
But I came away from it surprised at how well some of the elements held up 15
Yeah,
years on.
yeah,
I was like, oh, the game is not bad. I mean, the fact that you're able to have a completely enjoyable playthrough of a 15-year-old game with no major issues.
nah, I had a lot of fun.
It's good. It's a solid game.
It gave me my voice I will use for every series.
That little redneck voice that you use.
Yes, I love it.
So, and it was a fun series to record, and I hope you guys dig it if you check out our YouTube channel and look at that stuff. Mondays and Wednesdays, that series goes live. What else?
Yes.
What else has been on Todd's plate this week?
I jumped on For Honor. Fucked with
The new
newer-
Viking, right?
Yeah, new Viking. Don't remember the actual. I don't like. I feel like I don't even really remember like the name of like what that class is called.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a
Big
Viking
ass
with
hammer,
a big
right?
old hammer. Big old hammer.
Hell yeah.
I feel like you'd probably, if you were still playing For Honor, I feel like you'd probably enjoy it.
I love a good hammer, Todd.
It's pretty good, dude. It's. I didn't like play online with it. I was kind of just jumped into training, kind of like got a feel for it, and I'm like, it's kind of all right. Because I mean, if I'm gonna play that game, I'm gonna play with my baby boy, the Black Prior. Other than that, just like random tidbits of a little bit of Monster Hunter occasionally.
Yeah.
A little bit of the battle royales that I've been playing lately.
Still keeping that Monster Hunter rod polished for Iceborne next month.
Oh, of course, you gotta see. You can't let that shit get rusty. Not with Master Rank.
You are now less than a month out from Iceborne.
I know.
How does it feel?
My dick is rock solid. Rock fucking solid. I'm ready for I'm so ready. I don't know if I could truly put into words how excited I am for Iceborne. Like, just every little change, all the monsters they're adding. It's like for all the Monster Hunter like elitists that cry about like certain problems with that game, I'm like, get the fuck over it. The game's the best Monster Hunter in the fucking series. Fuck you.
And it's up to you what you end up wanting to do with this, but I was thinking that what we would probably, I think a good idea for us to tackle Monster Hunter Iceborne videos is to let you kind of do your initial like kind of playthrough of the core missions in peace. And then I was thinking maybe we could do like a showcase video afterwards where you show off some of the new monsters and gear and stuff like that. Once you've played through and had like a feel for what's going on in Iceborne, you kind of know what the deal is. Kind of do like a show off video or something like that, and then from there you can just kind of do your standard grinding videos if you want. Because you're going to be doing a lot of that.
Oh no, I'm going to be grinding the shit out of it. And I need to get my master rank gear. I need to basically perfect my build once again.
At least for a week before Borderlands.
By the way,
out.
shout out because they had how they do those like those gift packs.
Yeah.
Like for like whatever blah 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 celebration. These motherfuckers dead ass gave out a free attack jewel.
Oh wow, those are fucking rare, aren't they?
Oh, rare as fuck, dude.
Isn't that like one of the rarest? Shit. Like it's like a .000.
Let me tell you right now. I gave up on like trying to get like max attack. Because here's the deal: in my mind, you don't need max attack.
Mm-hmm.
All you really need is at least 4 or 5 attack, personally, like for the attack skill. Because at that point, you get the max affinity you can get with that skill. I mean, that's the whole thing. So this is jumping to the nerdy aspect of Monster Hunter. But you don't need max attack. I mean, if you can get it, go for it. Who gives a shit? It's nice. But even then, like I got like they gave me that second attack gem, and I'm like, cool. I ain't gonna use it. I'll say this. You know when it's going to get used? When I can pop a gem into my mantles. When I upgrade the mantles in Iceborne. Because that is something that's something that's going to be new.
A lot of cool new stuff coming with Iceborne.
Oh, dude, I'm so fucking ready. And then, obviously, I've been playing, I don't know if I talked about this last episode. I'm playing Call of Duty 4 Remastered.
We talked a little bit about COD 4 because we talked about like the nature of loot boxes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And how it's kind of ruined the game.
It's just, I still have fun with it.
Yeah.
I enjoy using my intervention in that game, bitch.
What is that?
The sniper from Modern Warfare 2.
Ah, okay. I'm sorry. I can't do it.
Nah, it doesn't bother me.
It's made that game into something it's not. It's too weird.
It doesn't bother me.
They should have repackaged it and called it something else.
What, Call of Duty 4 Redux? Oh.
Yeah, just you literally anything. It's because it is no longer. It quite literally is not just a remastered Call of Duty 4 anymore.
Yeah.
It's something different now.
Saying it's different's too much.
It is. Maybe the gameplay, the core gameplay.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, bro. It's the core gameplay is still Call of Duty 4 for me. So,
the core gameplay is still Call of Duty 4, but even then, they've added mechanics like the melee weapons and stuff. That's not a remaster anymore. You have changed the game. That's a remix or a new product, in my opinion. I don't think it's a remaster anymore. It's too. When I think of like a remaster, I think of it in terms of like game preservation, where I'm playing a prettier, souped up version of a classic game, not a completely new abomination where there's loot boxes and fucking skins and bullshit in the multiplayer. I don't want any of that. It should have just been the core Call of Duty 4 experience, just like it was in 2007.
But then you got to ask yourself: how is Activision supposed to make their money?
That's some real shit. We've actually got some loot box news in the news roundup.
I'm not surprised that's going to be showing up.
And we got and we actually have some Call of Duty news in the news roundup too. So there's some good stuff. We're gonna cover all of that. There's a pretty good amount of news. I've got some hot button issues that I want to talk about. I even want to get, dare I say, a little political in this episode, Todd. No, but getting political is the wrong word, but it'll make sense when we come to it. I want to end the show with a kind of a topic that is near and dear to my heart. But
I already know where it's going then. Okay.
But what else is going on?
I mean, there's something I might talk about next episode, which you might talk about right now. I don't know. I'm going to be giving Days Gone another chance.
Yeah, so I was kind of, I'm kind of in this weird place right now where I'm done with Xenoblade. I keep saying, I keep giving Assassin's Creed Odyssey's final DLC a chance to grab me, and it's not really. I don't know if I'm just like too far removed from the headspace to play that game or what the deal is, but it's just not doing it for me. I'm not in the right place right now. So I'm kind of like flipping around, and I want something new to play. And obviously, I've played my Switch to death over the course of the past few months, and there really isn't any major thing that is left unplayed for me on Switch. So I'm kind of farting around on PSN, and I'm looking for some things that are on sale, and I see that Days Gone is on sale for $35. And I was like, you know what? Is it probably going to be $20 for Black Friday? Yeah. And is that a better price? Sure. But when Black Friday rolls around, I'm not going to have time to play Days Gone. I've got some time to play it now, kind of in this dead zone between, because at the end of the month, we've got WoW Classic and we've got Astral Chain, and then like right after that is like the September clusterfuck. Basically, from the end of the month on, there's like no stops on this train, basically. Mm-hmm. So I have the next few weeks of just kind of downtime in terms of video games, and I wanted something to sink my teeth into. So you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to give Days Gone a shot. And I've only put about 2 hours or so. I was hoping to get a little bit more time to play it before we recorded this episode so I could talk about it a little more succinctly, but that did not end up happening. Just been too busy. But so far, I'm actually pretty impressed with it, just from the couple of hours that I've played. I don't have any major complaints with it so far. I mean, I think the gunplay feels solid. I like the stealth. I think the stealth is fun. I think the game looks good. I think it runs well. Now, granted, they may have had to patch the game like 20 times to make it run well.
See, I feel like you're not getting the same game that I played.
Well, and I'm glad for that. I don't know. I mean, to me, I'm playing this and I'm like, this is a totally solid. And I actually kind of like the way that the sort of biker in the woods of Oregon, I think it kind of makes it feel a little more unique than just another, not another zombie game. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'm very early. I will have more than likely kind of more succinct impressions of it next week when I have more time with it. But for now, I mean, just from a couple of hours, I'm pretty impressed with it. I mean, I think it is pretty good so far. Having a good time with it. I've been itching to get back to it. That's a good sign.
I'm gonna say something. If I think I'm gonna just accept the fact that like Jump Force is not gonna go below like $50.
Not if you. Well, it depends. If you're going for that like ultimate bundle or whatever, that's where you're gonna get fucked up. I'm still waiting.
I'm trying to get I'm trying to at least get not like the not the ultimate. I'm trying to get like the deluxe.
The game with the season pass, right?
Yeah. And that's still like 53, I think.
It depends, because like the game itself frequently goes on sale for like 30, which would be fine. But I also want the season pass. I'm just like, I'm not gonna pay $60 for the game and the season pass. Now, what I really think is probably gonna happen, honestly, is I think they're probably going to release a version of the game that just ropes everything together, and then that'll come out for like $40, and that's probably when I'll buy it. And like the reason that I don't want to pay this much for it is because I already know for a fact you and I could buy this today. We would play it with each other for like optimistically a couple of hours. We would play through like the story mode or whatever, maybe, and then we would never touch it again. It's not the kind of game that's like, well, so it's not like a Smash Brothers where there's a steady stream of DLC and reasons to come back. It's not like that. I mean, obviously, value is subjective, but for me, I don't look at Jump Force as a game that I'm going to pay $60 for.
No, it's real shit.
That's just me.
Yeah. I want to bring up something that we dealt with recently.
Okay.
The worst night of random.
Oh, yeah,
Smash.
that was pretty bad.
Holy shit.
We've put up a few YouTube videos to this effect, kind of showcasing the way that Todd and I play Smash Brothers, where we literally just play random characters, random stages, don't give a shit, and we just kind of see what the game gives us. We spin the roulette wheel.
And sometimes it just bends us over. And it's just bad. So it's like the closest thing to getting a character that either one of us liked was, I think, me getting Lucas.
Yeah.
And even that, I'm like, God, give me Ness before Lucas, please. Because Ness is one of my go-tos.
Well, the problem with it was that one of us would get a character that we liked and the other one wouldn't. There was no like good matchups. So like, I mean, at some point during that match, I got Simon, which is one of my mains. And like, so I mean, that was cool. I think the closest we got to actually having a match that we both enjoyed was, I think you were playing as Donkey Kong and I was playing as Samus. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think that was the closest we got to like an even playing field of like characters that we somewhat like.
Yeah. And it really just boils down to that roster is just so fucking large.
I mean, it's huge. It's like 70 plus characters at this point. So you could be good with half of them. You could literally be good with like 40 characters in Smash Brothers. And when you're playing, on a randomizer, there's still a 50-50 chance you're going to end up with somebody you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that I'm like pretty competent with like between 20 and 30 of the characters. That's roundabout. There are definitely, I have my mains. I have like my little handful of mains, but I think I'm competent with a lot.
It's funny now is like characters that I would not consider my main. I'm like better with them now because I keep on getting them.
Right.
Because like I've like learned to like be somewhat decent with Mega Man because they give me Mega Man like way too much, and I hate Mega Man.
Which is one of the good things about the way we play Smash. One of the things I like about it, it's kind of the double-edged sword. Is like sometimes you get fucked in the way that we got fucked the night we're referring to, but at the same time, it is kind of nice to play as characters you wouldn't otherwise play as.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the speed of it when you don't have to go to the character selection and the stage selection.
So that's another reason why I like it.
It's just boom, boom, boom. So I mean, I like it ultimately, but I really wish that the game had a way to toggle which characters were put in the random pool. And I know that this method of play is not popular enough for them to ever add that as an option. But it seems to me like it would be a pretty fucking easy thing to do. Because
do it in a custom rule set, basically turn off some of the characters.
Yeah, well, I mean, it literally, that function already exists for stages. I can take stages out of the rotation all day long. I can take even item spawns out of the rotation as much as I want. But characters, it's all or nothing with that roster.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where I'm like, man, it's such a niche thing that I know is never going to be patched, but man, that would make me so happy if I could just go through and I could be like, I never want to get Olimar or or whatever, you know. So I don't know. Yeah, Smash is always fun though.
Always and forever.
Always fun to dive into some Smash, even when you're getting booty blasted by the randomizer. Are you ready, Todd, to engage in some news items?
Let's go.
We've got some news on the docket here, some big and some small. I'm going to start with something small. So, by the time you're listening to this, folks, it may already be too late for you. Because as of August 8th, DuckTales Remastered has been delisted from all digital storefronts. Capcom gave a couple of days warning about this earlier this week and offered the game at a deep discount for players who still hadn't bought it yet. So if you already own the game, you will be able to re-download it at any time. And disc-based versions of the game will still play normally. But yeah, as of the time you're listening to this, DuckTales can no longer be bought on digital storefronts, which is sad. Because that's a really good game. Like, DuckTales Remastered, they are Way Forward, I think it was, the developer of that. They did an excellent job remastering one of the NES's best games. And it's sad that it's going away. It's always a bummer when you see things get delisted from storefronts. As for the reason why it was delisted, Capcom did not provide any details, but considering that DuckTales is a Disney property, you can safely assume that it is related to licensing issues. Capcom probably just didn't want to renew whatever licensing deal they had with Disney. It is worth noting, though, if you do want to play DuckTales in some capacity, there is the Disney Afternoon Collection that is, at this point, still available. It is not DuckTales Remastered, though. It is like the original NES version of DuckTales, as well as a bunch of other of those Disney Afternoon games for NES. So, seems like a dumb thing to bring to the news drop, Todd, but you know what? DuckTales means a lot to me. It's a really good game. And DuckTales Remastered is a really good game that I recommend to all platforming fans. And hopefully you already had yourself a copy, or hopefully you can go to a store and like find a physical copy, because the game is no longer available to you if you don't already own it. Todd, I've got some Call of Duty related news for you.
Oh, do you know?
This may please you. So when it launches this fall, Call of Duty Modern Warfare will offer players a variety of custom gear to use in the game's multiplayer, including a Tamagotchi watch that feeds on your multiplayer kills. Did you hear about this?
No, that's good enough.
Hilariously, it is called Tamagunchi, and it is a creature that will live and grow inside of your watch in the multiplayer depending on your performance. So it's like Tamagotchi. For those that are not familiar, Tamagotchi is this little like thing that was popular in the 90s where you had a little creature inside of a plastic egg that you had to care for, and it would grow or die if you didn't care for it. Stuff like that. So I think this kind of showcases like a sort of lightness and a kind of fun take on this game's multiplayer, as opposed to this sort of like dark and gritty nature of the game's campaign. So I'm looking forward to seeing what more dumb shit they do in that respect. Because that's a really kind of cute idea. To have a little Tamagotchi on your watch in the game.
Mm-hmm.
That like grows. You feed it the blood of your enemies.
Blood for the blood god.
It's pretty good. So, rack up those kill streaks, folks. Or this little creature's blood will be on your hands. Popular fighting game championship EVO took place this past week. Do you care to watch EVO at all?
I mean, I might pop in.
You an EVO guy?
Not really. Not like, I don't go out of my way for it.
I really like to watch these fighting game tournaments just because I just like to be put in my place. I anytime I think I'm halfway decent at Smash, you need look no further than professional Smash players to know just how garbage you really are. So yeah, EVO took place this past week. It's a big fighting game tournament. They showcase a lot of different games and have a lot of different kind of like days that highlight certain games and so on and so forth. So another thing they do is they have kind of like fighting game related announcements, and one of these was a troll that involved a video that was shown during the Tekken 7 portion of EVO. The video showed the classic codec interface from the Metal Gear Solid series with Solid Snake, voiced by David Hayter, commenting that it was some, quote, good-ass Tekken, end quote. And this led many fans to believe that this was a tease, that like Snake was going to come to Tekken as a playable fighter, so everybody freaked out when they saw this video. But then EVO took to Twitter and said that it was just a joke and not a character reveal, and that they did this without consulting Namco Bandai. Which would be harmless. Like, this would just be a harmless little joke. But David Hayter himself responded to EVO on Twitter saying, quote, EVO, you also failed to consult me or Konami. Please do not use my voice to promote other games ever. End quote.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. David Hayter's a little bit pissed that they used his voice as Snake to promote Tekken 7 in any respect, fake or otherwise.
Yeah.
I found that kind of funny. And if you're wondering how they got a voice clip of Hayter kind of like referencing Tekken as Solid Snake, it seems like David Hayter recorded it as like a private cameo, and he was not made aware that it would be used in promotional materials, fake or otherwise.
Yeah.
He said on Twitter that he is, quote, happy to record private cameos for anyone, but it is not okay to use my voice in the promotions of other properties, end quote. So that's his stance. I think it's a respectable one. I mean, you don't want any sort of legal issues cropping up from it, especially for a DLC that doesn't exist. So you got to respect that. David Hayter, by all accounts, is a really cool guy. So he wouldn't let the venom come out if it were not something serious. Todd, a new trailer for Pokemon Sword and Shield dropped this week, giving us a few more tidbits of information about the game ahead of its November release. Did you get a chance to check out this trailer?
I did not watch it, but I do know of what was in the trailer.
Okay, so yeah, so we got a few little tidbits. It was not a huge like information drop that I was kind of hoping it would be.
I was disappointed the moment I didn't see any evolutions that I cared about.
That's one thing. We were kind of hoping that we would get some of the starter evolutions and stuff like that. That did not come to pass. What we did get though, for starters, is something that actually I think even on this podcast, kind of disappointed that we didn't see. But now it has officially been revealed that Galarian forms are going to be a thing, kind of like Pokemon Sun and Moon's Alolan forms. Yeah. So for those that don't know, these are region-specific redesigns of certain Pokemon. So this game will have kind of Galar-specific Pokemon designs for some of them. Some of the ones that were shown off, we got Galarian Weezing.
Yeah, and I love him.
I love it too.
I love him so fucking much.
Looks like he's got these like two giant like chimney top hats.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty great, and he's got like this smoke mustache.
The pollution like mustache and shit.
It's great. I also really like Galarian Zigzagoon, which now has this like monochromatic like Gene Simmons color scheme.
Yeah, they're going for the whole kiss thing.
Yeah,
like
he's got like the star over the eye and stuff. And interestingly, Galarian Zigzagoon even has a brand new evolution.
Yeah.
Kind of going the full Mongoose thing. And I actually really like the way that it looks. I'm like, man, this might be something that I would consider having in my party. I really like the way it looks. We also got to look at a brand new Pokemon. It's like a Pikachu-like Pokemon called Morpeko. And it's got two forms. A happy full belly mode and a grumpy hangry mode.
But here's the deal: what I was reading, does it imply that it is a electric dark?
I think so. I think normally it would be electric, and then it would
normally electric, and I think in that hangry mode, I think it's dark.
That's what it looks like, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. It kind of suggests that it will change form depending on how much it eats. So I'm almost wondering if there is going to be like one of its abilities may be related to eating, or do you have to physically feed it like berries to change its form? Like mechanically, how is that going to work?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Unless it's just going to be a fucking move that switches it.
That's what I'm saying. Essentially, is there going to be a move set that it has where it's like, hey, I feed it something and it goes to hangry mode or otherwise. I don't know. Depending on the way they play it, it could be interesting. And this is one of the things that I think is going to be really interesting about Pokemon Sword and Shield. I don't know how heavily they're leaning into this, but it seems like there's going to be a few Pokemon that are like this, where they have kind of interesting mechanical things about them. Like we talked about Alchemy a while ago when Alchemy was revealed, and when it Gigantamaxes, it heals your entire party. I mean, there are little mechanical things that they're doing with Sword and Shield that are like game changers.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, these are the kind of things that are the reason that kind of ex-naying the full inclusion of the National Pokedex, these are the kind of things that are possible because of that. This is, I think, the advantage of not having to have literally 1,000 Pokemon to deal with. So, I don't know. I'm very excited to see. It's one of those things where every time we get more Sword and Shield news, of course, the vitriolic, sort of rabid online trolls and those the kind of like vocal minority of the fan base are very like anti Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, every time I see more news about Sword and Shield, I just get more excited. I think the game looks great. We also saw some new rivals, like the Searing. It's Bede. I don't know how to pronounce that. Bede or Bede. I don't know.
Better.
I don't know.
Better. I don't know.
And there's also a like punk rock looking chick named Marnie. The new villainous team of the game is Team Yell. They appear to be diehard fans of Marnie's, complete with megaphones and posters. Wouldn't it be hilarious if Team Yell, because you see, Marnie seems like she's kind of like a rival character, and she seems like she doesn't necessarily want the fandom of Team Yell. Wouldn't it be hilarious if Team Yell was in itself a toxic fan base? like if that was kind of the slant of it, as like Team Yell is kind of like almost a representation of toxic Pokemon fans. God, that'd be so good. Because at first, when I first saw the designs of Team Yell, it wasn't really doing anything for me. They kind of have this, they got this like punk rock kind of look, and I don't know, it wasn't really doing much for me. It's definitely not as good as like Team Skull and Sun and Moon. Because I loved Team Skull. I thought they were great.
Yeah.
And so these had Team Yell had big shoes to fill already, but I was really sort of like not feeling it until I thought of the possibilities of a team of fanboys could present. That would be interesting. So we'll see. We'll see if they implement that.
I mean, here's the deal. They're calling them Team Yell.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Because they're fucking vocal, like the vocal minority yelling out like assholes. Like
that's sort of how I feel. That's sort of like why I'm thinking this. Yeah. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the game. I honestly can't wait. It's like one of my most anticipated.
All I want to see is the motherfucking final evolutions of the starters.
I feel like that might be something that they dangle in front of us until... I really think October, we're probably going to get a final like Pokemon Sword and Shield Direct where it's going to be like 30 to 45 minutes just...
And even then, it'll be at the fucking 44-minute mark. Stupid assholes.
And I feel like then is when they're gonna finally show off, like here's the evolutions and here's this and really shed light on like all of the elements of the game that we don't already know about. So for now, we're getting little trickles of content and trailers and stuff, but I'm pretty confident that in October we will get a direct related to Pokemon Sword and Shield. This week, Todd, the Entertainment Software Association, or the ESA, has announced that Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony will be required to implement policies that disclose the odds of loot boxes in video games moving forward. The ESA states that this will apply to new games and game updates that add loot box features, and it will require games to make players aware of the rarity or probabilities of obtaining randomized virtual items in games that are available on their platforms. So in other words, moving forward, the major platform holders are going to require developers to disclose, like you're going to be fully aware of the odds of getting items in your loot boxes moving forward.
I mean, I'm down. It's cool.
It's cool. This is a clear move. I mean, their compliance with this, I think, is a clear move to sort of like, it's in response to, things like Supreme Court rulings on video game loot boxes and like the gambling narrative and stuff like that. They want to keep the government out of video games, right? And I think that's smart, especially considering that the current narrative around people bringing up the ancient argument of like, oh, are video games causing violence, which has sort of made the rounds again lately in light of some tragic shootings that have been happening in the country. People in the sort of political world are trying to point the finger and blame video games yet again. And even though it has been discounted and disproven countless times throughout the years. So I think this is in response to that. I think this is video games are kind of like, government, stay away. You clearly don't understand us. You clearly don't know what's going on. So we're going to comply, and we're going to disclose the probability of these items and stuff like that, so that the government doesn't need to meddle really in video games. Video games don't, the government doesn't really fuck with movies or any other really form of entertainment. Just leave video games alone. Let them be what they are.
Mm-hmm.
So this, this news doesn't really affect me. I think it's a net positive. I don't think it's really a bad thing for you to know the probabilities of getting certain items. I think people who are buying loot boxes are still going to buy loot boxes, regardless.
Oh, of course.
If anything, it may make developers increase the probability of getting rare items,
right,
to make loot boxes seem more attractive. So I really think for the consumer anyway, I think this is a net positive. I really don't mind this whatsoever. And indeed, the ESA states that many of the industry's major publishing arms, including Activision Blizzard, Bandai Namco, Bethesda, Bungie, EA, Take-Two, Ubisoft, and Warner Brothers, have agreed to implement a disclosure policy, quote, no later than the end of 2020. So we will be seeing this sort of take effect going into next year, it seems like. I don't know. What do you make of that? You're a loot box buyer.
I would love to see how garbage the Apex Legends
you can't wait to see the curtain lifted on that shit, huh?
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
I've got one last thing here, and I suspect that this is going to be a meaty discussion. And the reason that I debated on if I wanted to cover this or not, but there are a few things that need to be talked about before we even get into this. And it's the sort of thing that is not getting coverage on a lot of major news sites, and it is something that I feel like needs to be covered by more people. And it is, I think, unfair that this story is not being picked up by a lot of major news sites. And even though this is like a dumb little indie podcast that nobody listens to, if I have a platform, I want to distribute the news that I care about on the platform, right? So this is something I'm sure you've seen it on the few news sites that have reported on it. And it's funny because like people are starting to pick it up. Like Kotaku ran an article about this, but even it was kind of like slanted. It was a total like slanted article if you actually read it. Mm-hmm. So let me get into this. Seattle-based gaming convention PAX West is happening from August 30th through September 2nd this year. And popular PlayStation podcast Sacred Symbols, which is hosted by Colin Moriarty and Chris Raygun, was given a panel at this con that earlier this week was unceremoniously dismissed without any explanation. Did you read about this?
I heard about it.
So, if you actually read from the few sites that are giving this coverage, it is totally like slanted against Sacred Symbols and kind of making it, I don't know, like I feel like the narrative is very much kind of like slanted against them. And I want to give full disclosure here. I am a fan of both of these things. I'm a big fan of PAX. I've attended PAX several times. You and I are going to be attending PAX South 2020. Like we are PAX fans. PAX is a really fun, low-key gaming convention that I really enjoy going to, and I don't really have anything against the organization at large, but I do take issue with the way they've handled this particular scenario. I think was handled very shittily, and they should really be ashamed of the way they handled this situation. Despite that, I remain a fan of Penny Arcade, and I remain a fan of PAX, and I'm still planning on going to PAX South. It's going to be a great time. You and I are going to have a blast. I'm not trying to lambaste PAX or anything like that, but I am I am sort of wanting to shed light on the situation and how shitty it was all handled. And conversely, I'm also a big fan of Sacred Symbols and Colin and Chris. That's one of the podcasts I listen to every week. I've been there from day one with Sacred Symbols. It is part of my weekly podcast rotation. I'm a huge fan of those dudes. So I kind of have skin on both sides of the game here. So I'm in an interesting position as it comes to this news. Because it's almost like mommy and daddy are fighting, right? So Colin announced this cancellation of their panel via Twitter on July 30th, showing an email from PAX that stated, quote, "Apologies, but we unfortunately have to remove your panel from the PAX West 2019 schedule. We apologize for any confusion and are happy to still issue special guest badges to you and the folks you had designated as speakers, so you will still have access to the show for all 4 days," end quote.
Yeah.
While no explanation was given, the suspicion is that the panel was canceled for political reasons.
I mean, that's exactly what it got canceled for.
We don't know for sure. It's important to say that we do not know for sure, but that is almost certainly why, right?
99.9%.
You can, I mean, until PAX really comes forward and says, like, no, this is why. I mean, and this is something that Colin was even saying. He was like, just lie to me. Even tell me that, like, you didn't have room for us, or like you overbooked, or like somebody else needed the space. Like, it would have been a lie, but you could have at least told me that. Given me something.
Yeah.
You know, because as of now, they've given no explanation. And, you know, it just seems a little ridiculous. So, Sacred Symbols itself, I don't know if you've ever listened to it. It is not a political show. They almost never get into their personal politics in the show at all. It's a gaming show. It's a PlayStation podcast.
Yeah, but yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
So, that being said, though, Colin and Chris are nonetheless viewed as political figures in the gaming industry, and it's because of how some of their kind of like more conservative or libertarian views oppose the extremely left-leaning industry at large. So, like, the gaming industry at large, journalists, developers, whatever, is extremely left-leaning. And so now you've got these guys, you know, Colin and Chris, that have a platform, and they are, you know, Chris identifies, by the way, as a liberal, but he does have some more kind of libertarian or conservative views. And Colin identifies, I think, as an independent libertarian, and he's expressed his kind of more conservative views publicly.
But here's the deal. Don't you understand? If you ain't all the way left, you're right.
Exactly. You're an alt-right, extremist, Nazi, bigot, sexist, racist piece of shit.
I saw this story, and that's honest. I was like, yeah, they don't want to give that a platform. I don't even know if it's not even giving that a platform. It's just cutting the bullshit and not wanting any drama to happen.
These guys have got a big old target painted on their backs.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of their personal politics. And the thing about it is like Colin and Chris are like, we didn't even want to, I mean, this is a gaming podcast. We don't bring our politics to it at all. We just wanted to come and have a Q&A and see our fans. You know, Colin in particular, he never goes to cons. He's very introverted. He hates going to cons. But he wanted to do this for the Sacred Symbols fans.
Yeah, that right there, the Q&A is the problem. Like, the sort of dumb shit you might get with that.
Yeah, and it's funny, man. And there's some more details that are going to come to light as I get through more of this. But, you know, the Colin in particular, and Chris too to a certain extent, have been kind of under the microscope for quite some time. I don't know if you remember this. In early 2017, Colin tweeted an innocuous joke on International Women's Day.
Yep.
Tweeting, quote, peace and quiet, hashtag a day without a woman. And this caused like a media shitstorm that ultimately, I mean, people were like, Colin's canceled, fuck him, sexist piece of shit. All of his friends like left him and stuff like that. And ultimately it led him to having to part ways with Kind of Funny, which is the company that he co-founded.
Yep.
And the internet basically did everything it could to like assassinate his character in the wake of this, frankly, shitty, stupid, lame joke. He just like, was it kind of in bad taste? Sure, but ultimately it was just a dumb joke.
Yep.
Like, it wasn't some amazing, like, that's like the kind of shit like your grandfather would say, you know, peace and quiet. You know, it was just a lame joke. It was just a joke. I think Colin even said at the time, he was like, I just tweeted it, showed it to my girlfriend, laughed about it, and rolled back over and went back to sleep.
Little did he know.
When he woke up,
he fucked up.
Right. And when he wakes up, it's like, oh, I don't have a fucking job anymore.
Yep.
I mean, it's the cancel culture, the outrage culture is fucking insane. And you have to imagine the internet was waiting.
Bro, it fucking feeds me.
Dude,
I live off it.
I know you take entertainment in it.
It fucking sustains me.
You take entertainment in the outrage culture. I'm disgusted by it.
But no, I am disgusted by it. But it's just like the pure, it's pure stupidity. With the cancel culture, to me has always just been completely just asinine and fucking just. But I love it. I love it. I love how fucking crazy motherfuckers get.
You have to imagine these people were waiting basically for Colin to fuck up, essentially. These people were back. This is again, this happened in like March 2017. These people were waiting for the moment for him to be like, oh, this conservative motherfucker. Wait, just wait. The second he says anything, we're gonna get him. Like gotcha, sharks,
bitch. No.
Yeah, like sharks chumming the water for blood. Yeah, gotcha, bitch.
Mm-hmm. That dude, no, that's dead ass. Like that whole metaphor is real shit. With anything, not even just this situation, like his situation, is just motherfuckers are out there, just waiting to attack, waiting to fucking strike, and just fucking ruin somebody's life.
Right. Yeah, I mean, literally tried to ruin his life. I mean, now granted, this ended up being he did manage to turn his fortunes. It led him to interviews with like Joe Rogan and Glenn Beck and Dave Rubin.
Yep.
He ended up founding a new company, Colin's Last Stand, later this year, which is what spun off into like Sacred Symbols and all these other spin-off podcasts. Very successful business. And similarly, Chris Ray Gun, I don't know if you're familiar with him and his stuff, but
I know a little bit.
He's long been outspoken against like SJW and outrage and like trigger culture over on his YouTube channel. He's made several parody music videos about it, such as Ain't No Rest for the Triggered.
Whew, shit.
And then he's got a funny Under the Sea parody called Come Be PC.
Oh god, dude, I'm gonna have to check this shit out.
You would like it. It's really good. So anyway, he's caught a little bit of a fire because of his kind of. This is what's sad is when you take a stand against this shit, you paint a target on your back.
Well, I think you can't. That's against the narrative. You can't take a stand against the outrage.
You can't be different.
It's either you're with it completely to 100%. You cannot talk shit about it at all.
Yeah, God forbid you express your own opinions. Anyway,
there's only one opinion.
Right.
The left. No, I'm just
God forbid you speak out against the hive mind.
Yep.
Anyway, despite all of this kind of baggage that these two guys have for their kind of like political debacles that the internet has tried to cancel them both for, the Sacred Symbols panel was submitted and approved by PAX, which surprised them. They were like, well, we assumed that we weren't going to get approved, but they were kind of like, oh shit, I guess PAX is kind of practicing what they preach. This is, PAX's whole thing is all about inclusivity and a safe space for gamers and stuff. And
but there's the deal that you just said it right there. For certain other people, bringing Chris Reagan and Moriarty, it's not a safe space.
I feel attacked with them. Yeah. So the panel was approved several weeks in advance, and the two were asked to promote the panel on their show. Like PAX even said, hey, it's no secret. Promote it on the show. Tweet it out. Tell people to come. And
that was it. That was it right there. That was the end.
There were a lot of people who bought badges and made travel accommodations just to come to Seattle to see the panel. Because, again, this is a rarity. Sacred Symbols doesn't do this. Colin doesn't do this often. So anyway, Colin sent several emails to PAX kind of just asking for an explanation, inquiring about how Sacred Symbols fans can seek refunds. And when PAX finally responded, no explanation was given still. And while PAX offered to reimburse Sacred Symbols for the capital that it spent on accommodations, there will be no avenue for fans to acquire refunds.
Yep, they're fucking Marcus from Borderlands. No refunds.
because PAX enforces a strict no refund policy on badge purchases, which is, to be fair, something that is stated when the badges are purchased.
Yep.
It's still bullshit. It's still bullshit that these people who are like literally, they say like, oh, content is subject to change. There's no refunds on the badge purchases. I get that. But it's like, dude, there are people who literally bought their passes just to come to this panel. And now that panel doesn't exist, they have no interest in going anymore.
It'd be cool if they like set up something like at like an out of venue place for like people that came.
Now, this is something where could they turn to like eBay or something like that? Sure.
Oh, definitely.
And try to get some of their money back or whatever. There's an interesting kind of thing that has happened in response to this. Colin has offered to quote unquote refund 20 fans' badges by paying them out of his own pocket.
Wow.
In an effort to help fans that are kind of stuck with badges that they only bought to attend his now canceled panel. So he's saying,
I respect the fuck out of that.
Yeah, so he's saying, dude, for 20 of you, reach out to me. I will refund you $55, which is the cost of the 1 day badge that for the Monday panel that they were going to have. I will give you $55. I'll give 20 of you $55 out of my own pocket to reimburse you the cost of the badge that you can't use anymore. I respect that, and there have been a lot of people on Twitter that have upped their Patreon donations and stuff like that to sort of be like, hey, here's my, pay for another person's badge and stuff like that. So the community has kind of come together as a result of it, and it's been really cool to see. And like you said, I respect the shit out of that. How cool is that?
Respect the ever-living shit out of that.
And by the way, when I said earlier that a lot of these articles are slanted, a lot of them are failing to notate that Colin is trying to refund some of his fans out of his own pocket.
No shit. I'm not even surprised by that.
Yeah.
It would go against the narrative. This right-wing cunt.
Right.
Trying to.
So
I'm painting. All I'm doing is painting a target on my.
Who cares? We're nobody.
I don't give a shit.
You can't.
Who gives a fuck?
You can't burn something that hasn't been built, bitches.
Yeah, motherfucker.
Anyway. The future of sacred symbols and PAX is unclear, although many threats were made against Colin and Chris on Twitter, threatening bullying and violence if they were to show up to the convention.
Oh my! You see this bullshit, dude? It's like I don't know. Do people I don't know if they understand how they're hypocrites.
Yeah,
they cry about being bullied. They cry about being the victim, but here they are. Just doing it to somebody else.
But here Colin's like, dude, I just wanted to have my panel, meet some fans, maybe go on the floor, play some games, buy some merch, peace out, and go home. And then somebody tweeted out saying something like, hey, if Colin shows his face at PAX and somebody wants to accidentally spill their milkshake all over him, that would be a good thing.
Oh, dude. Oh, that's a tangent I can go on for a while.
That whole milkshake
thing. Do you know about that whole milkshake shit, right?
No, I didn't realize that was a thing. I thought they were just being mean.
Oh, you don't? No, bro. This is a whole thing. You got motherfuckers going around throwing milkshake, cups of basically a cup of milk, milkshakes, basically at people's faces. And I'm gonna be honest. People are crying about saying that's not assault. Here's the deal. You don't know what the fuck's in those cups.
Right. Well, why milkshakes?
I don't know why it started as milkshakes. I don't know the reasoning behind that, but that's been a thing with Antifa and shit like that. They've been doing that crap.
See, I thought it was just somebody just generally being a bully.
No, that's dead ass something. That's the thing. Again, I keep my toes more and my pinky toe more into that world of shit.
Right.
So because it annoys me. I could do a political podcast my damn self.
So that's something that was one of myriad threats of violence that they were given.
Yeah,
if they were.
I'm not even the moment you said the milkshake thing. I'm just not surprised you didn't know about that. That's a whole thing.
Yeah. So anyway, again, we don't know. I mean, Colin has said is there a possibility that they'll reinstate the panel after this? Maybe, but he doubts it. And even if he did, he's like, would I even want to go?
That's real shit, dude.
That would be a conversation that he would have to have with his fans. He would be like, we would have to have a serious conversation of if sacred symbols should go to PAX, even if it were reinstated.
I don't even think that should be a thing. Like I feel like
because at this point their safety is in question.
Yeah, no, dead ass. Like with all the threats going on with that, and at this point, it's like you'd be better off like trying to do something for your like a fan meetup for yourself,
right?
And like at that point, that turned into a whole thing, hiring security, hiring a bunch of other shit.
Exactly.
Even for a fucking video game podcast, just because of some. I love it.
So you touched on that. That was actually a common question that Colin has gotten. So he recorded kind of like a 30-minute kind of solo podcast where he just kind of answered like common questions and stuff like that. And one of them was, why don't you just hold a little mini event for Sacred Symbols? And he's like, well, we could afford to do that, but here's the thing. The nice thing about PAX is you just kind of show up and it's all recorded and live streamed and this, that, and the other. By the way, Sacred Symbols is by far the biggest podcast they would have had there in terms of their fan base. Like, Sacred Symbols is a podcast that gets like 50,000 plus weekly listeners.
Sounds right. Yeah.
I mean, they were given one of the main auditoriums, like one of the biggest auditoriums available. So like, this was not a small deal. This was a big, high-profile podcast presence at PAX West. So like, he's like, yo, like we could afford to do it. But the advantage is going to something like PAX, everything's already kind of there set up for you. Just kind of have to show up. Whereas we would have to pay for stuff like you said, like security and getting like the video and audio equipment set up. And it would kind of be a whole to-do that isn't super worth it in the grand scheme of things. Never say never, but it's probably not going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they got tapped to go to maybe like a PlayStation Experience kind of thing. That would be cool. Like a PSX kind of presence would be really cool. I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll have to see.
But I'll be personally honest. I don't see any shit happening with like the outrage culture. Honestly.
Well, for me too. Like Colin, like I said, he's already famously reclusive. Like when it comes to public appearances and stuff, and especially in convention scenarios, he's like, after this experience, I don't think I'm even going to attempt to attend one ever again. He's like, I think I'm kind of done with this shit.
That sucks. That does suck for like a lot of like the hardcore fans.
Because there are a lot of people. I mean, I've been following Colin specifically for fucking 10 plus years.
Well, yeah, you
and it's like
shit. You're still a fan of Kind of Funny. So
I still like Kind of Funny. I still listen to Kind of Funny, although marginally less. Like marginally less than after Colin left. I used to listen to them every single solitary week, but Colin brought something. That was what I like. What I like about Colin is his different take. He's not just the same as everybody else in the gaming industry. His sort of more conservative leaning views. I mean, it gives him a different slant on some of the topics of discussion, and I think that
that's why I don't. Dude, you can't be different.
Diversity is a good thing.
But in their mind, that sort of thing isn't diversity.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
they don't want anything to penetrate their little bubble. They don't want any of their beliefs to come into question. They don't want.
It's why I don't know. You know this meme, the whole NPC meme?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a whole thing basically calling like liberals and basically NPCs because they just spew the same shit.
Right.
Like they just legitimately spew the same shit. Like. I've seen so many interviews where it's just like I'm just hearing the same rhetoric, and I'm like, oh my god, do you guys think for yourselves at all or no?
What happened? What happened to diverse civil fucking discourse in this country?
It died like.
It died. I don't even. That's a whole other. I don't even want to get into that.
That's a topic right there that I don't think we should ever touch on the podcast.
It's sad though, dude. This whole news really put a dour on my week.
My thing with getting political is kind of like tiptoe around it, like how we did with this little topic, but don't go full balls deep in it.
No,
because it's not worth.
I mean, look, I try to abide by the whole Charlie Brown rule: don't talk about politics, religion, or the Great Pumpkin. I try to abide by that for the most part. But this was a story that I was like, you know what, dude? Like, nobody is reporting on this because of who it's about.
Yeah.
If this was about literally anybody else, you better believe this would have blown up, right?
Oh yeah.
Would have been a huge story. But because it's about Sacred Symbols and because it's about Colin and Chris, almost nobody's even reported on it at all. And the ones that have slanted it to fit their own narrative.
Well, here's the thing. Because that narrative is, oh, these racist bigots deserve it.
Right.
They don't deserve to have a platform. They don't deserve to have a panel. That's the mentality. The mentality of a lot of that shit is to deplatform people that do not think the same way.
Right. So I just wanted to take, our small little platform, it's not like we have like hundreds of thousands of listeners or anything like that.
You can't deplatform what doesn't have a platform.
Well, and moreover, they didn't even really deplatform Colin and Chris because they
really didn't.
They've gained an audience because of this. And they've helped them.
Well, here's the deal. That's usually what happens.
Right.
Dude, well, okay, going back into it. When, this is a little tangent. So, do you know the whole, Steven Crowder?
Yeah.
So, when Vox tried to do the whole thing, and it started basically another YouTube adpocalypse for a little bit, Crowder got so much, support because of that.
Right.
Because there's people, that censorship is bullshit. There is people out there that agree that censorship is bullshit, and they supported the ever-living shit out of Crowder for that because they had a lot of people just doing the mug club. Basically, I think it's basically like their Patreon, basically, like where you
right.
It's usually what happens. Like people try to do this whole deplatforming thing, and it just bites them in the ass when motherfuckers like, "Fuck you guys," and support the shit out of them.
Exactly, and that's exactly what's happening to both Colin and Chris. Yep. So. I mean, look, I mean, whatever happens, again, I wanted to take my shitty little platform and just give this news some light as somebody that, again, I come at this story from both sides of it. As a fan of Sacred Symbols and as a fan of PAX, I'm still supporting the both of them. I wanted to come at this as like I said, the kid that's watching mommy and daddy fight.
I see why PAX did what they did. It's just to cut the bullshit and not even have the drama that would have probably happened if they were there.
Right.
But is it causing still drama? Of course. But it probably would have been worse with
It probably would have, but again,
with the crowd.
And yeah. Any explanation would have been better than no explanation.
Oh.
And any action would have been better than what they did, really. So it's one of those things where it's like it's a shitty situation that was handled in a shitty way as a result of shitty things that happen to otherwise good people.
Yep.
So it is what it is. Again, I just wanted to sort of lay it out there. I didn't want to slant this news story in any way. I wanted to get a good discussion out of it. I wanted to give it its time in the spotlight because nobody else is reporting on this shit, and I think it's important. Mm-hmm. I think it's the kind of story that needs to be reported on. So I wanted to make sure we touched on it on Nerd Bourbon. I thought it would be a good meaty topic to end the show with. So I don't know. That's what I got this week, Todd. You got anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
I think that's about it, man.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, folks. We hope you had a good time with us this week. We'll catch you next week. Get fucking dunked on. Bye.
See ya.
Hey there, thanks for checking out another fantastic Nerd Bourbon video. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, be sure to go ahead and subscribe, leave us a like, drop us a nice comment, or I guess a mean one if that's your prerogative. But until next time, get dunked on.